Well, everyone, it happened. It happened. Leaks have started to seep out viscously, which I believe is a word, slowly and methodically, as reported now by Push Square, as it pertains to Fairgame $, which has in fact been rebranded into Fairgames. It is no longer Fairgame $. It is now just Fairgames. I would say sorry, but you know, it was fun while it lasted. I think I teased it a little too much. got a little they got a little butthurt about it. Sorry, not sorry. This, of course, is a studio we heard like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, May 15th. So yeah, a week and a half ago, that Jade Raymond, the founder of the studio behind this game, had left. Very surprising, because it's never really a good sign when an executive leaves a studio before their game even launches. And bear in mind, this is the first game that they're launching. So already it's like, see, I have to keep it ready. It's that time of year, guys. I put this away for like 6 months. I had to find it again. But now so much crap is happening in the games industry that I finally had to break out the red flag again. But it's never a good sign when an executive and a founder leaves before the company puts out their first product. But Jade Raymond has left the building. And the rumor was that, as reported here by Bloomberg, the departure came after an external test of Haven's first game, Fairgames, which some developers were concerned about due to its reception and progress. But basically, they allegedly had an external test, and the reception wasn't great, and so she was welcomed to leave. She might have left of her own accord and just been like, oh, the ship's sinking, I'm gonna hop off. Maybe that's what happened. She might have retired or resigned or something. But some of the specific verbiage was kind of weird. PlayStation leadership didn't give Haven staff a reason for her departure, which you would think if she left of her own accord, she would tell her employees, hey guys, I'm leaving. I have family matters to attend to, or I got another job offer, or blah, blah. Like, she would have said something. It kind of sounds like she just didn't show up to work on Monday, and then PlayStation leadership didn't give them a reason. So it kind of sounds like she may have been welcomed to leave, but who knows? But now we have this report from Sammy Barker over on Push Square mentioning something from the Sacred Symbols podcast, which is the one that Colin Moriarty does. And in that, let's see, more information about the project is beginning to trickle out. Apparently, a pre-alpha was distributed via PSN under the name Project Hearts, enabling a small number of participants to go hands-on with the game. According to one of those people, it's a, quote, battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter, with elements of both Fortnite and The Division present. Okay. You're telling me that they took inspiration from Fortnite and The Division on this? Really? Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is one way of saying it. If you remember the original trailer, it had a contemporary Robin Hood vibe to it. I mean, those are words. As squads of fashionable rogues robbed from the rich. Fashionable rogues. Oh, I mean, again, I guess you can't say they're technically wrong. It's just, that's one way of putting it. But they show this, and here's, like, the core problem is just that Fairgames tonally was cringe. Like, it's a game trying to be cool and I think relatable, but it's so fundamentally out of touch that it comes off cringy. And cringe is something that's beautiful. Okay, I enjoy cringe content. Okay, cringe compilations, love it, love it, eat it up. Those old clips of people singing the national anthem and their voice cracks, you know, classic. I can't get enough. I watch them on loop. Okay, I love cringe. But when you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into a video game, that's not when you should be cringe. Okay, that's not when you want to do it. And the problem for Fairgame Fairgames, is that it was built on this thing where they wanted it to be relatable. And it's like, ooh, yeah, I'm a young person. I have student loans and I want to rob from the rich and keep it because that's what's cool, you know? And it's just tonally, it was really, really off because it's being produced by a multi-billion-dollar corporation in the form of PlayStation and Sony. And they're gonna almost certainly try to charge a premium price tag for it, like 40, 50 bucks. And then they're gonna be like, yeah, eat the rich. It's just like, what are you talking about? It's so just dumb. It's so dumb. And it's also, I think, kind of insulting to the intelligence of the audience that you think that we're going to buy the game because we're like, yeah, eat the rich. Like, do you really think all of those like college students that are picketing outside of a Tesla dealership or something, you know, take Elon's money, whatever. Do you really think that they are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to buy Fairgame $ to support them in their messaging of eating the rich while they make hundreds of millions of dollars and try to make billions off of microtransactions? Like, what are we talking about? Like, the whole thing just doesn't make sense. It's just dumb. But you can kind of see a twisted version of it where it might have made sense to an out-of-touch executive who has not talked to anybody below the age of 30 in years and has no idea what the audience actually is interested, you know? It just doesn't make sense. It like, and this is one of those things with the present era of PlayStation and live service games in general, and it's starting to cool off now, but like we had it with games like Dustborn, for example, where it's just like anyone could have told you this was not a good idea. Like, you talk to any normal gamer, they would have told you this is going to lose all of the money. How much money are we going to lose on this? Yes. Like, anybody could have told you this. That the subheader, take it till you make it. Like, okay, are you gonna allow people to just pirate the game? Take it till you make it. No, don't do that. Just do it in the game after giving us money. Like, it's just, again, it's so stupid. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. I really think like the only way they could salvage this is if they were to like try to own it. Like, do you remember the old, I guess it's not that old now, but Outer Worlds 2 reveal? You remember how like irreverent that was?
And we see a quiet, peaceful setting.
They just broke the fourth wall.
Game seemed big and important. Now, something must break the serenity. Will this creature be in the game? No. Say goodbye to it forever. Suddenly, and for no reason, people running. These pointless slow-motion shots make everything seem cool and should bolster pre-sale numbers. That wah sound can mean only one thing. We must gaze over an epic shot of a world, and there should be lens flares. Now we see our hero, but only their silhouette, because the developers haven't finished the design, or finished the story, or finished any gameplay that's actually ready to show. In fact, the only thing they have finished is the title.
They just broke all the fourth wall, like the whole building, the whole fourth wall building, all of them, break down all the walls. And it was funny. How many announcement trailers do you point to 3 years later as like an example of an awesome thing? Like, not that often, when there was literally like nothing of content significance to be shown. But like this, I think, is what they would need to do for Fairgame $, is to just be like, so let's try this again. And then they just do the whole trailer over again, making fun of it, poking holes in it, being like, so this was stupid. Sorry about that. We also said that it, you know, take it till you make it. That's dumb. Please don't take our game and steal it. We're going to offer it for free. Like, if they did something like that, that actually could work. I think people would like giggle about it and be like, okay, they're acknowledging it. They're kind of owning it. If the gameplay is good, it might actually stand a chance of overcoming that initial wave of negativity. But if they try to just blow past it and be like, oh yeah, it's totally cool, that doesn't work. It also doesn't work if the game itself is bad. Like no amount of clever marketing will save a bad game. And that's the other problem. Apparently the game sees you dropped into a large urban environment in teams of 3 to 4 and tasks you with stealing from vaults while other groups of players attempt to do the same. This is kind of, I mean, this makes sense with what they showed, where there's multiple teams going for a vault. So I'm guessing if this is still indicative of what the gameplay experience will be like all the players or all the teams start in different spots on the map. There's a centralized vault. In this case, it looks like it's in a skyscraper, a tower. And then people or the teams work on getting through like security gate check or checkpoints and stuff, going up through an elevator shaft. Some teams can set traps for other teams. You get to the vault, they're breaking in. So you get to jump on them. Then you go to try to get in the vault and take the stuff from the team. And I'm assuming extract with it, because that's kind of how these games work. In other words, it sounds like yet another extraction shooter similar to the uber popular Escape from Tarkov or Sony subsidiary Bungie's Marathon. But apparently the game doesn't feel good to play, and it's, quote, super clunky in its current guise, which reflects what Bloomberg wrote in its report on Raymond's departure. The feedback to the release has not been good. I mean, if the game itself isn't good, no amount of tonal, adjustment will fix it. It just doesn't really work. So I really don't know how they dig themselves out of this, because if the game's not good, there's no point. But it's got to be pretty bad for executives to depart. Like that's the big thing, is for Jade Raymond to leave. That is like 15 red flags by itself. Game's gonna get canceled. I mean, it's a similar debate that's going on with Marathon right now, is just like, what are the odds that this finds an audience and finds success? What are the odds that Marathon finds an audience and makes its money back? Because there was the reporting from some I think it was Paul Tassi talked about it, where they need to be in like the top 5 sales charts for Marathon to be considered a success. What are the odds that this does that for the year? Like Assassin's Creed Shadows had some flack. It still sold, millions. It did pretty well according to their metrics. Was it the biggest game of the year? No, but it's currently, I think, the 2nd or 3rd biggest game of the year. Does this outperform that? I don't think so. Fairgame $ allegedly also represents a massive, massive investment. Are they gonna make their money back on that? I don't think so. So at what point do you cut your losses? That's the big question for Sony right now, is just at what point do you cut your losses? Like, I understand and I respect that they want to try to find a way to make some of these work. And they want to find a way to help these games recover. And I think that's good when it's possible to do that. But I do think for some of these projects, there isn't really any saving them, because they never should have been greenlit to begin with. And I think that's one of the other big problems, is just that, I mean, if a game like Fairgame $ was never tonally correct, it never was going to be something, in my opinion, that the broader gaming public would go, that's badass, that's slay, snapping in agreement. I don't think anybody was ever going to say that. And so I think it's more of an issue of the foundation being cracked than that the house on top of it needs repairs, Marathon, I think, stands a better chance at having the house repaired. I don't think the foundation is, except for the art. That's the other piece. That makes Marathon a little bit more complicated. But I think, if Marathon fixed a lot of the content issues and things like that, it could stand a better chance. But Fairgame $, of course, we haven't seen like a gameplay trailer or anything. We don't know what the playtesters are talking about specifically, but I'm not so sure if there's saving that. I don't know. What's the over under? Maybe we do a poll. Maybe we do a poll real quick. Still more than I would have thought. That's still more than I would have thought. I think the odds of them canceling it are pretty low. I still kind of have a gut feeling that they're going to try to get it out, because if they didn't cancel it in the last wave of live service cancellations, I think it's pretty far along. But who knows? If the feedback was so bad that they booted out the founder, I mean, that alone should tell you something. So who knows? Anyway, we'll keep an eye on Fairgame $, but it's certainly not in a good spot. After a playtest, you'd hope the feedback is positive, motivates the team. They make a couple tweaks, and then they come out with another playtest, and then it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling until you get a public reveal and playtest and all that. But the playtest was allegedly so bad that it caused the founder to get fired. And that's the opposite of what you would want to see. So we'll see. Because I have suspected that they were going to reveal it as part of like their showcase this year. After this, I don't think so. After this, they probably wait till next year. But next year, they have to put out the Horizon Online game. They have a Horizon MMO that they're still working on. They have that spin-off project from Bungie. They, of course, have Marathon. And we'll talk about Marathon, but it's looking like it might get delayed. It actually might get delayed. So, and they don't want to release 6 live service games in the same year because they want to give them each a chance to breathe. It's just a mess. The whole thing is a mess. The extraction shooter thing is a waste of a genre. Well, I think the inherent thing, the inherent issue with what these companies are trying to do with extraction shooters, and Marathon's a good example of it, and it seems like Fairgame $sign could be too, is that extraction shooters historically have been very, like, they appeal to a hardcore type of gamer. And I think the confusion, and this is just my opinion, but I think the confusion with this has come from the fact that companies think, oh, Tarkov is a hardcore extraction shooter. Even something like Hunt Showdown. Thank you. Hunt Showdown is kind of hardcore. Not as hardcore as Tarkov, but it's much slower. It's very methodical, you know? And I think some companies thought, oh, so we just have to make an accessible extraction shooter, and then that pops off, you know? Because that's what some people said about PUBG back in the day, was that that was too hardcore of a battle royale. So we just need to make a more casual one like Fortnite, and that'll pop off. And so they were hoping to be the Fortnite of extraction shooters. But I think the difference is that as a genre, extraction shooters don't really appeal to the same type of casual gamer as like a Fortnite does. And I think it's because like extraction shooters, inherently the gameplay loop is way more frustrating than a battle royale. You die in a battle royale, you just reload, you try again. In an extraction shooter, you fail, you are actively punished for failing, because you lose the stuff that you brought with you. So some people won't bring anything, fair. They'll just go in with a knife in Marathon and hope for the best. But you also lose the stuff that you collected that round, which also still feels like a punishment. Now, hardcore gamers can connect that. That can motivate them, just like with the roguelike games, and it keeps them engaged, it keeps them hooked, because they're like, ooh, I'll try again. But again, if you kind of reset it to the casual gamer who has 45 minutes to play at night after getting home from a long day of work, that frustration probably isn't that fun for them. And so I think that the idea of a casual extraction shooter just doesn't make sense. I think it just doesn't click with the casual gamer. And when you try to break it down into a more casual package, it just doesn't really work. It doesn't appeal to the hardcore gamers, which are the ones that are going to spend all the time and money in your game. And it doesn't appeal to the casual guys because the format of the game doesn't click with them. And so it just doesn't really work. You know, it just doesn't really work. They're streamer games. The high stakes makes it good for content. Yeah, and I can understand that, but I think it's also, and I'm saying this as a content creator, it's the danger with making a game for streamers. Streamers may love it, but there's not enough streamers on the planet to make your game successful. And streamers can only justify playing games that the audience also likes watching and also likes engaging with. So it doesn't really click. Do I count Helldivers as an extraction shooter? No. Typically, extraction shooters, one of the key staples of them is that when you go in, if you die, you lose the stuff you had on you at the time. Like, that's one of the core concepts of extraction shooters. I don't hear anything about that in this article about Fairgame $sign. So I don't know if it's something where you bring guns in and then you lose them if you get eliminated or killed or whatever. So I don't know if that's a thing here. But a lot of extraction shooters, one of the core concepts is that you lose the things that you brought with you or you had on you when you die in the match, you know? Whereas in like Helldivers, that doesn't happen. Helldivers is a very unique thing, but it's more of an arcadey team-based shooter. Yeah, objective-based co-op shooter. Yeah, that's fair. That's a good way of saying it. So anyway, it's just, I think that this extraction shooter trend is not the thing that a lot of companies think it is. And it's what kind of surprised me, and I told you guys about it a lot. When I went to that preview event for Marathon, I was shocked at how many streamers and Bungie devs were in agreement when chatting over lunch about one specific thing. And it was extraction shooters are going to be the next big thing. I personally don't believe that. I could be totally wrong. But like we're at lunch and there's some big streamers. We're talking about streamers with multiple millions of followers, right? They're talking to Bungie devs, and the Bungie devs, you know, are chatting back and forth, and they go, why did you guys choose to go extraction shooter for Marathon? And they said, well, we just really believe this is going to be the next big thing. Battle Royales are on their way out. Extraction shooters are in. And all the streamers, yep, totally agree. Totally agree. And I personally don't see it. I personally don't see it. Maybe I'm missing something because, again, I'm small potatoes compared to some of the big guys that are streaming these games to, you know, 20,000 people. But I just don't see it. Like, I think that they're successful. They're worth making. But I think if you're budgeting your extraction shooter, assuming that it's going to be a Fortnite level success, you're on some serious copium. And you shouldn't budget it based on that. And that's the slippery slope, is that they're pouring so many hundreds of millions of dollars into these projects because they're like, yeah, it's going to be the next Fortnite. And then it doesn't make Fortnite money. And they're like, oh, well, shoot. Now we're screwed. You know, now we're really screwed. Oh God. So I've not just heard it at the Bungie event. I've heard streamers and, you know, other devs at other places mention the same thing with extraction shooters. It's just, for whatever reason, they think it's the new meta and they think they're getting in early. But you remember, these are the same companies that thought that NFTs were the next big thing. Like 4 years ago, NFTs were going to take over the industry. So I'll believe it when I see it. He took my thing.